So this video is going to go over how we name what are considered binary acids and bases. So we'll define what it means to be a binary acid or binary base, and then we'll go over how to write the names and the formulas for each of them. So first, binary acids. So a binary acid is a compound that's made up of a hydrogen and a nonmetal. So when we write the names for binary acids, we are going to use kind of this as our formula. So the first word is going to be hydro, and then we're going to say the first syllable of the nonmetal, and then we're going to add the ending ic. And then after that, so that's the first word, and then the second word is just going to be acid. So we'll go over some examples of how that works here in a minute. When we write the formulas, we are just going to write the hydrogen and then whatever the nonmetal is. And then you have to make sure that your charges balance appropriately. So you're going to write them as if you were writing any other pretty much ionic compound. But in this case, it's a hydrogen and a nonmetal. So some examples. Our first one is HCl. So I know that might not look like HCl to you, but that's what it's supposed to be. So then when we write the when we write the name for HCl, so the H would be hydro, and Cl is chlorine, so the first syllable would be chlor, and then we add the ending ic, so hydrochloric, and then we just add the word acid after it, so hydrochloric acid. Our second example, the formula is HF. So when we go to write the name, again, we're going to start with hydro. And then F is fluorine. So we're going to start with fluor. And then we're going to add the ending ic. So hydrofluoric. And then acid afterwards. So HF is hydrofluoric acid. Now, if we were to go back the other way, we're going to work backwards from the name. So we have hydrobromic acid. So hydro, that tells us the H, and then bromic is the nonmetal bromine, so it's just going to be HBr. And then the last example is hydroiodic, or hydroiodic acid, so we're going to start with the H again, and then iodic would be iodine, so it's just going to be HI. So it's pretty straightforward going back and forth between the two. You just have to make sure you have the hydro and then you add the ending ic and then the word acid afterwards. Let's talk about bases. So binary bases are a metal and hydroxide. So the metal can be from columns 1 or 2 or the transition metals. The common ones that we're going to see are going to come from the first 2 columns on the periodic table. So when we write the names for these, it's going to be the name of the metal and then hydroxide. So hydroxide is the name of OH, and so we're just going to have the name of the metal and then the word hydroxide. So that's pretty straightforward. When we write the formulas, we're going to go backwards. So we'll write the symbol for the metal, and then we'll write OH, because that's hydroxide, and then we have to pay attention to charges. So if it's in the first column, the charge is just 1, so you don't have to worry about any sort of subscript. If the metal is in the second column, the charge is +2, so then you'll put a 2 down as the subscript after OH. And we'll look at some examples for that as well. So let's go through some examples for how we do these. So our first formula is NaOH, and we're going to write the name. So the first is I'm going to look at my metal, and Na is sodium, so I'm going to go ahead and write sodium. And then OH is hydroxide, so it's just sodium hydroxide. Okay, and then for my second example, we're going to do the same thing. So my metal is calcium, so I'm going to write calcium as my first word. And then OH is hydroxide. And I don't have to do anything when I'm writing the names about the 2 subscripts, so it's just calcium hydroxide. So now if we're going to go back the other way, our first example is potassium hydroxide. So if we go find potassium on the periodic table, potassium is K. And potassium's in the first column, so it has a 1 charge. So we're just going to write OH after it, and we don't have to worry about any sort of subscript. Our second one is magnesium hydroxide. So we're going to go find magnesium on our periodic table. Its symbol is Mg, and it has a positive 2 charge, so we are going to have to add a subscript. So we'll just have our OH in parentheses, and then we'll put the 2 down at the bottom. So the formula turns out to be Mg and then parentheses OH and close parentheses 2. So that's how we write names and formulas for binary acids and binary bases.